Hey everybody, off the Mike Sports Network here. Another edition of Brown's Thoughts because there's been a lot of conjecture and a lot of conversation within the Browns fan base, and a lot of influencers are due to are owed kind of the blame for this whole situation getting out of control. Guys, we haven't even gotten to the combine yet. We haven't even gotten to the combine. Everybody wants Shedeur Sanders. Everybody wants it, but so we crunched some numbers here for a second. So I actually was not accurate. There were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 12. Because there was obviously the first 3. So there was Caleb Williams, number 1, Jaden Daniels, number 2, number 3 was Drake May. Then you had Michael Penix. Then you had JJ McCarthy, and then you had Bo Nix, who was the 6th quarterback. So what I've been saying is that Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders would have been ranked below these two. And I actually saw something thanks to Andrew Siciliano, the voice of the radio voice of the Cleveland Browns. Andrew's phenomenal. I love Andrew. And he pointed out, he also does a lot of stuff. He's covered the NFL for a long time. Andrew points out that and his buddy Daniel Jeremiah, also one of the most renowned scouts and draft analysts in the business, that Bo Nix was like his 32nd rated prospect in 2024, and that Cam Ward, or in this case, Shedeur Sanders, because most scouts universally think that Cam Ward is the better quarterback of this crop of quarterbacks that's not very great. And he says, yeah, these guys would be ranked below Bo Nix. And man, the internet's gone crazy over this because they're like, oh, hey, Brock Purdy worked. So, if you get the quarterback right, nothing matters. It's like, guys, do you guys realize that Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, was throwing to Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. He had Trent Williams blocking for him. He had Nick Bosa on defense. All these dudes, all these all-pros. Of course he was going to look good. And I like Brock Purdy more than most people, but let's not act like he's like the second coming of God or he's Joe Montana. Like, come on. This whole discussion is starting to wear me out because y'all are just a bunch of idiots. And then there was another report that came out through Todd McShay, longtime draft analyst, now doing a podcast, but he's been a longtime scout, knows what he's talking about. He said that he's heard from multiple reliable sources that the Browns aren't taking a quarterback at 2. And I know a lot of people are going to be mad about that. You guys should be relieved because I am convinced. And yes, like I said, we're 2 months away from, this thing actually going down in Green Bay for the NFL draft. I'm convinced that if it was Cam Ward that was picked, I'd be okay. You'd have to really convince me and really, get me excited a little bit more, even though I like Cam more than Shedeur. I've told you guys it's a little bit more of a personal thing, but also it's like I don't think Shedeur is that great. Okay. I think this whole thing of him being Deion Sanders' son is kind of masking the fact that he's kind of just, he's fine. He's a good quarterback, decent quarterback. I don't think he's worth taking second overall. And that is my problem. This whole narrative that, like, hey, you have to take a quarterback. You have to take a quarterback because otherwise nothing's going to matter. You're not going to compete. Guys, I think the big mistake that we are all making is thinking that the Browns are close to competing. They are not. Okay. 2023. And I'm not blaming Joe Flacco for this. I think this is more of a reflection of just how bad quarterback play for the Cleveland Browns is, that a guy in Joe Flacco could come off of his couch for 6 games and take this team to the playoffs. That's the best quarterback play outside of Baker Mayfield that you've had in the last 25 years. That's a problem. So let's leave it at that. That's the best quarterback play you've had. And, you've had 2 playoff berths in the last 5 years, which is great. But the reality is this team is not anywhere close to competing for a championship. So drafting a quarterback who has a better chance, in my opinion, of busting at number 2 and wasting that premium selection when you should be building the infrastructure and building the culture of this team. And also, mind you, the fact that, hey, this front office and this head coach may not be around, which, is part of the course for this ownership. Like, the problem is ownership, and it's just like this perception. And I think everybody just wants to panic because they whiffed on Deshaun Watson. That doesn't mean you have to go into the first crop of of shit and grab the shitty quarterback class and grab you know the best of the worst or the best of the worst. And it's just like, what are we talking about here, guys? It's just these influencers who will throw this guy away if they take him, whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, it's quicker than they propped him up, because these are the same people who said that Deshaun Watson was going to work. These were the same people who supported Baker Mayfield until he sucked and they got him out of here. And now they want him back because now he's all of a sudden good. Guys, there's a reason why this quarterback position has been cursed in Cleveland, and they've had so many quarterbacks that I've stopped counting. They might have to make a second jersey for how many quarterbacks have been on the Browns in the last 25 years. The reason is they've overdrafted, they've overcorrected, and they've made bad decisions. And I've seen better and higher graded quarterbacks come through Cleveland and fail. And you want to know why? Because they didn't have support around them. They didn't have the right, attitude, the right support around them. Like, Tim Couch was taken number one for a reason, okay, in 1999. Like, there was a reason why he was taken number one overall. He was actually kind of, okay early on, but, he ran into an expansion franchise ran by expansion ownership that was still trying to figure it out, and it didn't work out. Brady Quinn didn't work out because they didn't have what they wanted to do in mind figured out. And then, hey, Derek Anderson showed up in 2007 and almost took this team to the playoffs out of thin air. But we're getting this perception that just because they went to the playoffs and, were a wild card team and, won 11 games in 2023, that they're somehow close, and that a rookie quarterback and, picking for the future is going to change the direction of this franchise. Guys, do you realize this? Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson in the same division are not getting any younger. And I don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be around in Cincinnati for very long, because that organization, even though they win, is kind of a poverty franchise. The Ravens ain't going anywhere. I don't like them. The Ravens ain't going anywhere. Lamar Jackson keeps getting better. He almost won another MVP this year. That's in your division. Joe Burrow, almost with one of the worst defenses I've ever seen, almost single-handedly, along with Jamar Chase, but let's get real. Joe Burrow's the trigger man, and really the point guard at quarterback. It helps to be surrounded, but Joe Burrow was outstanding, almost 5,000 yards. Almost single-handedly took this team to the playoffs with a bad defense. And yeah, that's a failure on coaching that they weren't able to get him to the playoffs, but he could have easily won MVP. The Pittsburgh Steelers, with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, two outcasted quarterbacks, were able to win 10 games this year. They had a bad quarterback situation, and they made it work. This is all about culture and organization. And as long as Jimmy Haslam is running this organization, I don't think anything's going to change. You could take whoever the hell you want. Just the fact that this is like, a bad quarterback class, the worst quarterback class in 3 years. Like I said, look no further. There were 6 quarterbacks taken last year, and neither one of these guys who are going to be taken at the top in this draft are worth it. So, hey, Bo Nix was taken, 12th, 11th, or 12th? And you think, okay, a guy who's graded worse than him, we should take him number 2 just because he's a quarterback. I keep doing videos about this because I don't think people fundamentally understand and get how things work. And I don't think they've been watching the Cleveland Browns play, or they are just being fooled, because the Browns are not close to making the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes is still there. Josh Allen just won the MVP. Justin Herbert went to the playoffs this year. CJ Stroud is going to get better. They got a new offensive coordinator. I have run down so many teams. I mean, the Colts are still finding ways to win games, even though Anthony Richardson's kind of mid to terrible. There are so many decent to above average quarterbacks in the AFC, and there are better teams in the AFC that don't have a disgruntled defensive end on their team and a bunch of other pieces that they're trying to figure out, and a running back who may never play again in Nick Chubb. Guys, we don't have to force the quarterback, okay? And I'm relieved to some degree that Todd McShay is kind of giving the information that I've been trying to tell you guys since really the end of the season. that the Browns do not need to take a quarterback. They're not going to take a quarterback, in my opinion. They shouldn't take a quarterback. They should trade or take the best player available on their board. And, if it's somebody that I don't agree with, that's a separate issue, okay? But they should absolutely not be taking a quarterback. And people I know are going to kill me for saying that, but it's like, yeah, I understand. This has been the position that's been plaguing the Browns for 25 years, but I've been through this so many damn times that I've become numb to it that I'm just prone to think that whoever is going to get drafted to this team is going to fail. And it's damn sure one of these two guys. And Cam Ward, maybe I actually kind of like the kid, and I think there's some elements to his game that are very exciting. But again, the scouting community is universally aligned in their belief that neither one of these guys would have been taken in the top, would have been one of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks taken in last year's NFL draft. So let that sink into you. If any one of those quarterbacks would have come out in this class, they would have been taken ahead of these two guys. What does that tell you? Stop the nonsense. All these influencers who are just grifting or just trying to make money and get their clicks and shit. You guys, the second, if the Browns draft one of these quarterbacks, which I don't think they will, the second they suck, you're going to immediately just give up on them. Just like you gave up on Deshaun Watson, despite you guys pushing the narrative that this was good, that they were going to go to the Super Bowl. Stop it. Okay. This is a bunch of bullshit. All right. Thanks. I'll see you guys. Bye.